To be honest, I actually wrote today's episode a while ago. Back when I did my Godzilla Monsters as Dragons episode, I'd already pretty much decided for sure I was going to do this episode. Then, after Battle for the Beast World, I had a perfect setup for it, because the character that narrates all my Mech Armor episodes, Benny Sharp, had met the character that narrates all my Kaiju episodes, Heath Hurricane Reynolds. So in today's episode, with sort of two narrators, but it's mostly gonna be Benny Sharp, because who doesn't want more Benny Sharp in their lives, huh? I'm gonna take some classic Godzilla monsters and redesign them into Gundam and Pacific Rim inspired giant mech armors, built for fighting off Kaiju. Super stoked for this concept, so let's jump right into it, shall we? Let's go. Hit like, if you want. Subscribe, if you feel like. But either way, enjoy the show. Over 3 years ago, my world started getting attacked by colossal monsters. I recently found out how it all started, and the woman responsible for their creation is trying to help fix the situation, but she's got a lot less power over it than we'd hoped. Luckily, I also made a friend from another dimension who specializes in building tough-as-nails mechanized armors. His forte is making smaller scale suits, but when I asked him for a hand, he was more than eager to come to my world and help a team of Kaiju Slayers build some ultimate monster-slaying mechs. He understands how they work and their abilities a lot better than me, so I'll pass you off to him now. You know how some people say bigger ain't always better? Well, those clowns weren't talking about mech suits. These mechs I've been building over the last while for Heath and his buds to fight these giant dinosaur things are so flippin' grand they bring a tear to old Benny's eye. And by old Benny I mean me, obviously. Benny Sharp. Sharpest mech designer in the multiverse. I mean, I only been to like 5 dimensions now, but whatever. I'm gonna say I'm right until I'm proven not right. Anyway, when Heath brought me in to make some mech armors, I had a little idea for how to design them that I just couldn't resist. See, back when I was a kid in my dimension, I used to watch these goofy Japanese monster movies, right? Godzilla versus a whole bunch of big gabagoos from space and all that. Apparently, they ain't got those monster movies in this dimension. So what I done did is I designed these giant mech armors after movie monsters from my world. I mean, come on, that's some good old-fashioned irony, right? And I'm not talking no Alanis Morissette kind of irony, I mean real irony. Mech suits based on monsters to fight monsters? Jesus, I'm clever, ain't I? Anyway, he's got no idea that that's what I did, but hey, I had fun with it, and that's what matters, right? I mean, that and making sure they can stomp giant monsters, which, obviously, these suits can do. The first one I done made is called Destroyah Omega, and this one is specially made for a team of whoever in Heath's band of buddies is the most vicious fighters. This thing's got attacks coming out the wazoo. First off, it's got a super slick giant blade called the Laser Horn. When this thing heats up, it can slice through anything, and it's particularly good against those beasties that don't like getting all dried up, because this blade is 4 pepper symbols spicy hot, if you know what I mean. This big boy's also got a crazy purple lightning cannon. And obviously by now, if you watch those movies, you can tell I'm basing this big red beauty off of Destroyah. And in those movies, they called his beam like, I don't know, a mini oxygen ray or something like that, but I don't know what that means, so I just had the thing shoot purple lightning. And making the purple lightning wasn't as easy to do as you'd think. I spent like 2 days on that alone, and people didn't get why I was doing it. But old Benny Sharp's got commitment at a bit. Anyway, this thing can shoot lightning out of the tip of its sword, and if it impales a monster, it can get lightning shooting out of all of that monster's ends. You ever had lightning shooting out of your keister? I did once, and I tell you what, it doesn't tickle. But anyway, it can also absorb things through the sword once it's stabbed into something. So if it's fighting a big old goon with some kind of energy beam or something like that, my beautiful Destroyah Omega is gonna suck up all that good juice. But one of the coolest things about this guy is why it's gotta be run by a team of folks. It can split up into a bunch of different little mechs that I call Destroyah Minors. They ain't as powerful, but hey, it's a lot harder to hit 5 targets than 1, you know? But for real, this guy's gotta be some of my best work yet. I honestly can't believe I never thought about making giant robots back home. I mean, here I do got people paying for the supplies and the team doing a lot of the work for me, so there is that. You know I actually get a lunch break here? Crazy stuff, I forgot that lunch was the thing. I usually only eat 2 meals a day. I'm doing that, what's it called? Interstellar fasting or whatever it is. Helps me keep my figure, you know? I gotta stay slim and sharp. Anyway, what was I saying? I don't know, so let's just take a look at the final thing and move on, shall we? Alright, this next one was being made for a specific pilot named Erica, so I knew right away what I was gonna base this one off of. Cause see, there was this one wacky Godzilla movie called Godzilla vs. Biolante. The big gummy lizard had to fight this little shop of horrors looking goon that was made from the DNA of a rose, Godzilla, and some gal named Erica something something. Why? I don't remember. I said I watched these movies as a kid, right? It was ages ago. But really, you think they needed much logic behind it? Nobody watches these movies for good science, they watch them to see a bunch of 100-meter-tall goons slapping each other around. Nobody wants to see Godzilla vs. the reasonable science experiment or Godzilla vs. a paper-mache volcano, right? We want to see the big guy spitting atom beams at weird goobery plant monsters and ocean bug gods and stuff like that. Anyway, just as an aside, I respect the heck out of the monster design looking back at old Biolante. You know how sometimes when dudes are designing lady monsters, they'll make them all pretty looking and give them weird monster boobs and stuff? They for sure didn't do that with this thing. That viney creep looked like a crocodile and a bucket of tree guts went in a blender. Of course, I wanted to make my mech a little prettier, but that's because all my mechs are works of beauty, regardless of gender. I first thought I was gonna call this big beautiful mech a biomech. But then I remembered my buddies Charlie and Kayla would have something to say about that. So instead I called it Violent Fury. What's it mean? I got no idea, but it sounds cool, doesn't it? Anyway, this thing has got some vicious moves. The main attack for her is grapple vines. That's what I call the whips that flop out of her arms. They're real sticky and got blades at the ends of them, so they can wrap monsters up real good or even stab into them. And of course I made this thing strong enough so once it's got a beastie all wrapped up, it can whip them around real good. It even plants itself to the ground with more grapple vines and its giant feet to make sure it doesn't fall over when it's swinging its partner round and round. Violent Fury can also turn its arm into a big toothy mouth to grab stuff. All about grabbing stuff this suit is, plus from that mouth thing it can shoot streams full of green acid at her enemies. Now one thing Biolante could do that I couldn't do with this thing is turn into a bunch of spores and float away. I ain't got that kind of power. I built a mech suit once that could teleport in the puff of smoke, was this slick blue devil looking thing, but that wasn't easy and the suit was about 1,000 times smaller than this thing. And of course for this suit, nobody was actually holding me to the whole mechs made from giant monsters things, but like I said, trying to have commitment to the bit. So I at least made this thing able to shoot out a glowy yellow mist to hide from an enemy and be able to run away. Not that this thing would ever have to run away. It ain't getting beat in a fight. They already used it to kill that Shin Humongous monster and that thing was a beast. And I mean, they're all beasts, but this one was beast with a capital beast, if you know what I mean. Now, I can't tell you how much I wanted to make this thing fly. I said it once, and I'll say it 50 more times. Mech armors are always better when they can fly. I mean, I even made the Destroyah one able to fly, but that wasn't exactly easy, and it kinda had to for all the pieces to be able to get together more easily. With this one, it didn't need to fly, and the flowery freak I based it on couldn't either. So, not everything can be perfect. But you know what I say, it ain't gotta be perfect, it's just gotta get done. And with the amount of monsters that Erica gal is killing with this thing, I'd say it's pretty close to perfect anyway, and it's certainly done. So let's take a look. So it seems like you're a big fan of these mech armors, huh? I mean, you watch this far, so you must be, right? Or you're just a big fan of old Benny Shop, but either way, you're gonna listen to what I gotta say here. See, if you like these mech armors, you can get them all as posters on my Teespring store. And maybe someday they'll even end up on shirts, cause you know what? Take a look at this. Boom. What's that at the top of this shirt? It's a Benny Shop Mech Armor original. And then take a look at the back. Boom, we got 2 more Benny Shop armors right there near the top. I tell you, someday I'm gonna take over this channel. Tayron's got like 26 episodes, but I'm catching up. I got 6 or 7 myself. Someday if I play my cards right, this is just gonna be called Benny Shop Studios. None of this PopCross stuff. You know, most people don't even realize that PopCross stands for Pop Culture Crossover. So if people don't get it, what's the point of having it? Benny Shop Studios, that's my new pitch. Anyway, if you want these posters, you can get them linked in the little bar beneath this video, along with a whole bunch of other stuff I done made. Anyway, sorry for the interruption, let's get back into the last mech armor, shall we? Let's go. Now for this last guy, I couldn't resist making a mech armor out of MechGodzilla. Now I know what you're thinking. You made a mech out of a mech? But MechGodzilla was supposed to look like a big metal lizard, and this one is supposed to look like a big metal man that sort of looks like a big metal lizard. I'm not saying it's my sharpest idea, but hey, when you take enough swings at the base, you're gonna hit a few skee balls. Something. I started that metaphor before I remembered that I don't know nothing about baseball. Let's just move past it. Now, just before I left my dimension, a new Godzilla movie came out. Like I've said before, nowadays I'm mostly a rom-com guy. I'll see the occasional action flick with my nephew, cause he's obsessed with those Iron Man and Revenge Team movies, but when I heard they were doing a Godzilla vs. Kong, I was like, alright nostalgia, you tricksy little stinker, you got me on this one.
Spoiler alert, they got a new MechGodzilla in that movie, and the design wasn't as cool as the original, but it was still pretty good. I'd give it like a 10 out of 13 or something. I ain't one of those folks who thinks that all new things suck and old stuff is always better, but also, sometimes the old stuff is a bit better. Anyway, for this beautiful mech armor, I took inspiration from the new one and the old versions, and I call it the Mech God Smasher. It's the first mech I made that was able to be controlled by someone that wasn't in the suit. They could be sitting off sipping drinks somewhere. But apparently Heath's buds weren't really into that. They wanted to be in the fight, so I made a cockpit where the pilot could sit. I think it's a bit silly to do that, but I respect their fighting spirit. Anyway, MechGodzilla can always shoot a million different kinds of space lasers and rockets and stuff, so I just decked this thing out with every generic mech weapon I could think of. It shoots rockets from its back, its legs, its fingers, even from the bottom of its feet if it needs to. They ain't never took advantage of that in the field, but it can do it if they want. It can shoot lasers from its shoulders, its knuckles, its palms, its eyes, and the laser's got a bunch of different color options too, but, they all just kinda do the same thing. Finally, this thing's got a crazy glowing super punch. Its fist charges up with blue lightning plasma, and the impact will cause a shockwave that'll fry every beastie it hits. Plus, and most importantly, this thing can fly. I don't think the new MechGodzilla could do that, and I say wasted opportunity. They missed a trick there. Now this armor, I'll be honest, it turned out a bit basic looking, but it is as tough as they come. The first thing they sent it off to fight was a beast called the Grim Bonehead. It had a real tough skull that it wore over its own head, hence the name. And the Mech God Smasher punched through that skull so fast that the fight was almost boring to watch. I kinda wanted to see a longer brawl, But I guess minimal collateral damage is a good thing or whatever, less people getting smushed and whatnot. Plus, I'm sure I'm gonna see plenty of good fights in my time here before I head back to my dimension. I ain't gonna worry about that, cause you know what I say about worrying, it's like praying for what you don't want to happen to come and slap you in the face. Anyway, you got something else to say here, Heath? Back to yous.
Right. As bizarre as Mr. Sharp's attitude is, his work has been invaluable.
Now wait a sec. You just got me thinking. Why does invaluable mean real valuable? Shouldn't it mean not valuable? Who'da flip wrote the English language, huh? Whoever they were a real gooba if you ask me.
I guess. Should I wrap this up or not?
Yeah, go ahead, sorry. Check back in next week, everyone, for Benny Sharp versus the English language. I'm gonna time travel and slap around everyone who decided to make English a real dumb language.
I'm pretty sure that's not actually going to happen, but regardless, Mr. Sharp has been a huge help on my world. Using his mechs, we've already slain 24 of the toughest monsters to scourge my dimension. And while there are way more to go, we finally have a fighting chance at slaying every last villainous kaiju and making my world safe once again. Well, I'd say this was a little bit of a mixed bag, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. I definitely really like how Destroy Omega turned out. Taking Gundam inspiration was a lot of fun. It was super time consuming, but I think it paid off. I do have to figure out how to do these giant robot kind of episodes faster, like this and the Transformer episode. The art really does take a lot longer than other kinds of episodes, and I wouldn't say they often turn out that much better, if better at all. I'd say the best mechs I've done are still my Kung Fu Panda one and my Arctic Llana one, and both those took significantly less time than the art in this episode. But I'll figure it out eventually, it's not that big a deal. Anyway, if you're new to the channel and you want more Godzilla monsters as stuff, as I mentioned at the beginning, I recently did an episode taking Godzilla monsters and turning them into dragons. And if you want more mech armor stuff, I've got a whole bunch of Benny Sharp episodes where I take famous cartoon characters and turn them into mech armors. But besides that, that's all for today. I'm Christian Pearson. This has been PopCross Studios, home of the nerdiest art videos on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you had a fun time, and I will see you all in the next episode on Friday. Goodbye.